In section 3.5, we're going to talk about adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. To add and subtract fractions, you need a common denominator. In other words, when we're talking about a common denominator, before we can add fractions, the bottom number has to be the same. There are two methods to find a common denominator. Method 1, find a common denominator by multiplying one denominator by the other denominator. Step 2, find the least common denominator or the least common multiple of the denominator. Okay, so let's move on. In this video, we're going to just focus on using method 1. Okay, so here is your example problem A. Notice the denominators are not the same. Okay, this is an 8, this is a 7, so they're not the same. So here's how you're going to find a common denominator. Okay, this one's an 8, so to get a common denominator, you're going to look at this one and multiply the top and the bottom by 7. You now get on the top 7 over on the bottom 56. So notice we took this bottom number and multiplied it over there. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to take that bottom number and multiply it over there. So I multiply by 8 over 8. Okay, now I'm going to get the plus sign still in the middle there. And now we're going to multiply it. 2 times 8 is 16 on top. Over 7 times 6 is 56 on the bottom. Okay, and when we do that, we get on top here, 7 plus 16 is 23. Over 56 stays the same because we have to have common denominators. Okay, so the answer to example A is 23 over 56. Okay, example 2 here, we have 1 1/6 plus 5/8. Okay, when I have a mixed number, I like to stack them, so I'm going to stack them. I'm going to say 1 1/6 plus 5/8. Okay, notice once again the denominators are not the same. Here this denominator is a 6, and over here this denominator is an 8. Okay, so our technique to get a common denominator, I'm going to take that 8 that's down here, and I'm going to multiply it up here by 8 over 8. I would now get, well, that 1 is still out front, okay, and then I'm going to multiply the fraction. 1 times 8 is 8 on the top, over 6 times 8 on the bottom is 48. Okay, so now notice I took this 8 down here and multiplied it up there to get a common denominator. So what I'm going to do now is over here I'm going to multiply by this 6. So I got 6 over 6 and I'm going to multiply it. That would equal, notice there's no number out front, so I'm not going to put a number out front on the other side over here. Now I'm going to multiply the fraction. 5 times 6 is 30. Over on the bottom, 8 times 6 is 48. Now I just need to add these, like the original problem says. 8 plus 30 is 38. Over 1 plus nothing is 1. Don't forget the 48 over there. So my final answer, I notice both of these numbers are even, so I'm going to reduce it, divide by 2 over 2. And when I divide by 2 over 2 there, I get the 1 still out front. 38 divided by 2 is 19 on the top. 48 divided by 2 is 24 on the bottom. So my answer to the second one here is 1 19/24. Alright, my next one here, notice, once again, I don't have common denominators. I need a common denominator to add these, so here's what we're going to do is, this one over here is a 5, so I'm going to take this 3, I'm going to multiply it over here. So I'm going to multiply by 3 over 3. On the top, 3 times 1 is 3. On the bottom, 5 times 3 is 15. It's a plus sign in the middle. Okay, now my denominator here is 15, so to get it over there, I'm going to take that 5, multiply over there, times 5/5. Multiply the top, 2 times 5 is 10, over 3 times 5 is 15. Notice the denominators are now the same, so on top I get 13. 3 plus 10. On the bottom, the 15 stays the same. I can't reduce it, so I have 13/15. Alright, this one has two mixed numbers, and notice it has a negative with it. Okay, so right here I'm going to stack these, so I have 3 2/5 plus negative 3 5/8. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do is find a common denominator. So right here, I'm going to take that 8 down there and multiply up here by 8 over 8. And I would end up with 3 still out front. 8 times 2 on top is 16. 5 times 8 on the bottom is 40. Okay, now down here, I'm going to multiply this one times the 5 up here. Has to come down here to get a common denominator, and I get 3 still out front times the 5 times 5 on top is 25 over 40, and I still need plus a negative. Notice the signs are different. Okay, this bottom number right here has that negative out front. So remember our rule for that. Our rule when that negative is out front is we have to subtract the numbers with the big dog on top. So this is the big dog. So we're going to do 3 25/40 minus 3 16/40. Okay, because this one's the big dog down here. 25/40 is bigger than 16/40. So when I subtract these, okay, 25 minus 16 is 9 over 40. 3 minus 3 is 0. Okay, so my answer to this is going to be 9/40. But once again, this is the big dog. I use the sign of the big dog. So right there, that big dog had a negative on it. So my answer to this problem is negative 9/40. Alright, the last one here says evaluate t minus 4/5 for t equals 5/6. So we're going to take what t is and we're going to plug it in where t is. So I have 5/6 minus 4/5. Okay, so the denominators are not the same. So I'm going to take this one right here and multiply it over here. So that's going to go up there like we usually do. So 5 over 5. And that turns into 25 on the top, 5 times 5. Over on the bottom, 6 times 5 is 30. Minus, okay, now I need to change that 4/5, so that 6 down here is going to go over here to get a common denominator, so times 6 over 6. So on the top here we have 4 times 6 is 24. Over on the bottom, 5 times 6 is 30. On the top I have 25 minus 24 is 1 over 30. So my final answer here can't be reduced, so the answer is 1/30. Okay, on this lesson we will have board work to do in class that I'll check to know what you do, and then on Monday you will have an assignment.